Welcome to Lumon Radio, a tutorial on CSI Linux and OSINT. I'm Unsam Visage and this is brought to you by CSI Linux. From the times of Cain and Abel, anonymity has been vital and important. If not for a nosy raven that snitched, Cain would have gotten away with the murder of his snobby brother. But just as a hunt, our actions and moves leave traceable tracks. If only Eve used a Tor browser and a reliable VPN to search for the taste of the apple of Eden instead of Chrome or Firefox. Rookie mistake. Just like the outside world, every movement and action on the internet can be and would be monitored. Now maybe you're on a quest to slay a dragon and access his data. Or maybe you're just paranoid, living in the mountains, in the hideouts, seeking protection for your personal space. Well, sit back, relax, grab a cookie. Actually, do not grab that cookie. Do not grab that cookie. But more on that later. First, let me demonstrate by explaining some catchy terms that you might have heard already. How does the internet work? Well, there's always a client and there is always a server. You, as the client, would request something from the server, and the server would send you a response. For example, you type in an address in your search bar, a URL, you request a response, a packet as you're sending one. And as we said already, when there is an action, there is a trace to be tracked. Now about those catchy terms. Let's start with HTTP. The Hypertext Transfer Protocol is the standard protocol modern web browsers and web itself uses. FTP and BitTorrent are example of alternative protocols. Some names in here may sound a little bit bougie, but take them as they are for now, since everything that needs to be explained will be explained in details and the rest is not for now. But always feel free to research on your own time. HTTPS, Hypertext Transfer Protocol Secure, or HTTPS, is a combination of Hypertext Transfer Protocol with a Secure Socket Layer, or SSL, or Transport Layer Security, or TLS, protocol. But what are the differences between HTTP and HTTPS? Well, HTTPS is HTTP with encryption and verification. The only difference between the two protocols is that HTTPS uses TLS, or SSL, to encrypt normal HTTP requests and responses, and to digitally sign those requests and responses. As a result, HTTPS is far more secure than HTTP. You might have seen it already behind the domain name. What's a domain name? More on that later. ISP. What is an ISP? Your ISP is the company that provides you with the internet connection. Your ISP may be Comcast, Bell, Time Warner, or whatever company you're paying each month. LAN, short for Local Area Network, is a small network that's confined to a local area. For example, your home network or an office network is a LAN. IP address, an Internet Protocol address, or IP address, is a numerical address that corresponds to your computer on a network. When a computer wants to connect to another computer, it connects to that computer's IP address. Router. A router is a device that passes traffic back and forth. You likely have a home router. It's that router's job to pass outgoing traffic from your local devices to the internet, and to pass incoming traffic from the internet to your devices. Gateway. A gateway is a device that routes traffic between networks. For example, at home, your router is your gateway. It provides a gateway between your LAN and WAN, or Wide Area Network. NAT, Network Address Translation, or NAT, is used by routers to share a single IP address among many devices. For example, you probably have a wireless router at home that creates a Wi-Fi network for your laptops, smartphones, tablets, and other devices that connects to it. Your ISP provides you with a single IP address that's reachable from anywhere on the internet, sometimes called a public IP address. Your router creates a LAN and assigns local IP addresses to your devices. The router then functions as a gateway to devices outside your LAN. It appears as if you only have one device, and that would be the router, using a single IP address. Domain name. Domain names are the base part of website names, like Google.com. Note that domain names are They're just another type of hostname. DNS. The domain name system is how computers convert human-readable domain names and host names to numerical IP addresses. When you type google.com into your web browser's address bar, your computer connects its DNS server, and the DNS server replies with the numerical IP address of Google's server, which is what your computer connects to, just like a yellow phone book. But for computers, you're likely using your ISP's DNS servers by default, but you can use third-party DNS servers if you prefer. Ethernet. Ethernet is the standard wired network technology in use almost everywhere today. If your computer is connected to a network via a cable, it's likely using an Ethernet cable. That cable plugs into an Ethernet port on your computer. Ironically, some fascist governments use some kind of an Ethernet which is connected to the internet by a metaphorical pipe to suppress and control the information in their citizens and cut it off whenever they want to start a massacre. Wow, what a great technology to have. That leads to our today's sponsor, Evil Core. Order and set up your own broken internet today from one of our branches. Just ask our happy customers. China, Russia, Islamic Republic of Iran. Order now to get a 20% off for a limited time only. Evil Core, broken internet for all. Network interface or network adapter. Your computer's wired Ethernet connection and Wi-Fi connection are basically both network interfaces. If your laptop was connected to both a wire connection and a Wi-Fi network, each network interface would have its own IP address. Each is a different connection. Network interfaces can also be implemented entirely in software, so they don't always directly correspond to hardware devices. Localhost. The host name, localhost, always corresponds to the device you're using. This uses the loopback network interface, a network interface implemented in software to connect directly to your own PC. Localhost actually points to the IPv4 address, like 127.0.0.1, or the IP version 6 address, which looks like that. Each always correspond to the current device. MAC address. Each network interface has a media access control address, or for short, MAC address, also known as a physical address. This is a unique identifier designed to identify different computers on a network. MAC addresses are usually assigned when a manufacturer creates a network device. For example, when you visit an airport and use 30 minutes of free Wi-Fi before being kicked off and refused access to further Wi-Fi without paying, the airport's Wi-Fi network has likely noted your device's MAC address and is using it to track your PC and prevent you from taking advantage of more free time. MAC addresses could also be used to assign static IP addresses to specific devices, so they would always get the same IP address when they connect to a router with DHCP, or Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol, but more on that later. MAC addresses are actually more fluid in practice. You can change your network interface MAC address. Yes, this means you can often gain access to more free airport Wi-Fi by simply changing your device's MAC address. Port. When an application wants to send or receive traffic, it has to use a numbered port between 1 to 65535. This is how you can have multiple applications on a computer using the network, and each application knows which traffic is for it. Standard HTTP uses port 80. So when you're connecting to google.com, you're really making an HTTP connection to port 80 on google.com. The web server software on google.com is listening to traffic arriving on port 80. You could attempt to connect on port 81 by plugging http://google.com:81 into your web browser, but you wouldn't get a response because the web server software isn't listening on port 81. If X is the address of the house that you're sending a package to, the port would be the name of the room in that house that you would want the package to be in. Easy. Protocol, TCP, UDP, ICMP, and etc. Protocols are different ways of communicating over the internet. TCP and UDP are the most common protocols. The ICMP protocol is also used, but primarily so network devices can check each other's status. Different protocols are ideal for different types of communication. You might ask, what's the difference between TCP and UDP? Well, more on that later. Packet. A packet is a unit of data sent between devices. When you load a web page, your computer sends packets to the server, requesting the web page, and the server responds with many different packets of its own, which your computer stitches together to form the web page. The packet is a basic unit of data that computers on a network exchange. A firewall. A firewall is a piece of software or hardware that blocks certain types of traffic. For example, a firewall could block incoming traffic on a certain port, or block all incoming traffic except traffic coming from a specific IP address. URL. A Uniform Resource Locator, or URL, is also known as a web address. The current URL is displayed in your web browser's address bar. For example, http://csilinux.com/tutorial is an URL that tells your computer to use the Hypertext Transfer Protocol, or HTTP, to connect to the server at CSILinux.com and ask for the file name tutorial in the root directory. The computer connects its DNS server to find the IP address CSILinux.com is associated with and connects using the TCP protocol on port 80. Wow, that was a lot of information. That's why there's a pause button. You always had a choice to pause and rest a bit. Well, maybe you have. Maybe you feel overwhelmed and you had to take notes. Or maybe you're such a genius that doesn't need these basic stuff. Maybe you're here to teach me a lesson. Well, speak. We're all listening, genius. I'm waiting. Well, I guess not. How silly you feel right now. Now that I've established my dominance and we horsed around a bit, let's proceed. What were we talking about? The cookie. But before that, and on a serious matter, OPSEC, or Operational Security. This line of work saves lives. This line of work takes lives. OPSEC, or Operational Security, is a collection of all methodologies at maintaining anonymity in intelligence operations. Protect your identity and bury it deep while working. From your habits to your IP, from your choice of words to your devices. Build yourself a safe castle and then try to attack it. Find the vulnerabilities and fix them. Always plan. But most importantly, remember that plans always tend to fail, so be ready. Think as the mindset of your enemy. Act as if you're the only hope, and live and manage as you will never see tomorrow. Secure anything that could be traced back to your identity. Evidence, your witness. As you start, you'll be responsible for the fate of all those involved. You have to practice to become a shadow. Everything comes from a cause and not for a reason, as purpose is a mankind game. As if there is a shadow, then there is always a body, and you'll have to become a shadow without a body. This line of work saves lives. This line of work takes lives. Good luck. About that cookie, I'm pretty sure there was a joke somewhere in that, but I'm afraid that we waited so long that the cookies are no good anymore, and the punchline has been spoiled.